The impudent administrators decided not to serve a woman dressed in ordinary clothes, arguing that she was too low-level to live here. But the simple woman was not as simple as it seemed at first glance, and she taught them a lesson. Under the glittering glow of crystal chandeliers, the lobby of the luxurious Silver Crown Hotel in Chicago exuded an air of refined opulence. The polished marble floors reflected a dazzling array of light and shimmer, while delicate scents of lavender and fresh-cut flowers mingled in the air. Soft notes from a live piano performed in the background intertwined with the gentle hum of hushed conversations among well-heeled guests. Despite the veneer of beauty and sophistication, an undercurrent of exclusivity pulsed through every corner of the space. It was in this meticulously curated environment that Nia Jackson, a successful and charismatic Black CEO, made her entrance after a grueling intercontinental flight. Dressed in a comfortable yet elegant athleisure outfit that spoke of quiet confidence rather than ostentation, and carrying only a modest carry-on, she cut a striking figure. Her natural grace radiated despite the absence of makeup or flashy accessories. It was clear that her power and poise came from within. Nia's eyes held a determined light as she stepped into the grand lobby, her mind focused on securing a moment of peace before her crucial board meeting later that evening. However, the harmonious atmosphere came crashing down almost immediately as Nia approached the reception desk. At the counter stood Ashley Reins, the hotel's administrator, whose icy gaze and haughty demeanor betrayed her disdain. Without even a greeting, Ashley swept a dismissive look over Nia. "I'm sorry," she said curtly, her tone dripping with condescension, "but this hotel is strictly for VIP guests only. I suggest you leave and find accommodations elsewhere." Her words, cold and cutting, hung in the air like a verdict. Even the other staff members behind the desk exchanged condescending nods, and a few well-dressed guests nearby shot Ashley triumphant smiles as if confirming her unspoken rule. The Silver Crown was not meant for someone like Nia. For a brief, agonizing moment, the ambient luxury of the lobby, the gentle murmur of elegant voices, the soft chime of distant laughter, and the subtle scent of expensive cologne, felt suffocating under the weight of unjust exclusion. Nia paused, her eyes narrowing ever so slightly as she absorbed the shock of the rejection. The smooth, refined world around her proved inhospitable, and the cold veneer of elitism was palpable. With a calm exterior that belied her inner turmoil, Nia did not waver or raise her voice in anger. Instead, drawing a deep, steady breath, she met Ashley's scornful look with quiet assurance. In a composed tone that resonated throughout the now tense lobby, Nia stated firmly, "Please, let me speak with your general manager, for I am his boss." The words, precise and unwavering, hung in the air as if time itself had slowed. In that charged moment, the calm confidence of Nia clashed with Ashley's disdain, and the tension in the space soared. The sensorial splendor of the lobby, its flickering lights, the rustle of silk and tailored suits, and the still, expectant silence of onlookers, underscored the dramatic shift. As whispered murmurs rippled through the room, every eye turned toward Nia, anticipating what would follow this audacious declaration. Almost immediately after Nia's bold declaration, a ripple of shock and disbelief spread through the lobby. The crisp clink of glasses and murmurs of elegant conversation were replaced by a tense murmur. From behind the reception desk, Ashley Reins struggled to maintain her haughty composure. Instead of offering a stern rebuttal, her lips twisted into an unnerving smirk as she exchanged a few whispered words with a colleague. Her eyes, however, betrayed a flicker of uncertainty. At that moment, the heavy, revolving doors at the far end of the lobby swung open. A tall man in a sharply fitted suit strode briskly toward the reception area. Thomas Whale, the general manager of Silver Crown. The air seemed to crackle as he approached, his presence an unmistakable authority among the polished decor and refined guests. Thomas's eyes widened slightly when he saw Nia, a blend of surprise and recognition crossing his otherwise reserved face. "Ms. Jackson?" he asked, his tone softening as he searched her eyes. In that instant, the familiar recognition in his gaze dispelled any lingering preconceptions Ashley might have harbored. A murmur of recognition passed amongst staff who overheard his inquiry. It was clear that Nia wasn't just any guest. She was the head of the very hospitality network that owned the Silver Crown Hotel. Before Ashley could muster a comeback, Thomas stepped forward, his voice measured but firm. "Ashley, please step aside," he said curtly, glancing from Nia to the receptionist with clear authority. "Ms. Jackson is not only a guest. She is the CEO of our company. I'm afraid you must have misunderstood the guest list." His words, resonant with power, reverberated through the lobby. For a moment, the room fell into an awed silence as patrons and employees exchanged uneasy glances. Ashley's previously smug smile faltered. Her eyes darted in search of a way to salvage the situation. Nia maintained her calm as she met Thomas's gaze. There was a quiet dignity in the way she held herself, her posture upright and unyielding despite the absurdity of the situation. "Thank you, Mr. Whale," she said evenly. "I'm here on business for a personal matter, and I expect to be treated as such." Her tone was respectful yet assertive, each word meticulously measured. As Thomas began to review the situation with his staff, the tension in the space escalated further. Whispers grew louder among the onlookers. It was clear that even those in high society were taken aback by the unprofessional behavior on display. Thomas, visibly displeased by the unfolding debacle, turned to Ashley, his eyes narrowing. "This is unacceptable," he stated, his voice low and resolute. "I demand a full review of this incident immediately. Initiate an audit of the front desk policy cases. We need to understand where our service standards have failed and ensure this never happens again." His words struck like a gavel of their own, punctuating the need for accountability. In that charged atmosphere, Thomas's calm authority transformed the room. While Ashley fumbled for words that might justify her behavior, Nia's quiet confidence remained unwavering. She met his gaze with a slight nod, as if silently affirming that justice was finally catching up. The elegant hum of the lobby seemed to pulse with anticipation as employees hurried to comply with Thomas's directive. The murmured whispers turned into determined conversations as staff members began discussing what the audit might reveal. Meanwhile, Nia stood, silent yet commanding, her steady presence a stark contrast to the earlier humiliation. Every detail, the glittering chandeliers, the soft scent of lavender, the cool marble beneath her feet, formed a backdrop to this remarkable turnaround. Every eye in the lobby now shifted from disbelief to respect. The sound of a phone dial echoed faintly, set aside for now as a symbol of the moment's gravitas. Thomas Whale's command for an immediate audit of the front desk practices converted a personal affront into a call for systemic change. As the general manager turned to make announcements about the forthcoming investigation, the tension in the luxurious lobby deepened, setting the stage for what would be a dramatic confrontation between established elitism and an unwavering demand for fairness. In the charged silence that followed Thomas Whale's decisive declaration, Nia Jackson maintained her composed demeanor. With a graceful yet determined motion, she reached into her elegant leather portfolio and withdrew a sleek USB drive along with several neatly organized printed documents. Standing before the assembly of stunned guests and staff, she announced in a clear, resonant voice, "Ladies and gentlemen, I now present further evidence that speaks for itself." A technician promptly connected the USB drive to the large digital display mounted on a wall opposite the reception area. The screen flickered briefly before coming to life, and grainy but undeniable security footage began to play. The video captured a series of corner shots from the hotel's lobby over the past few days, scenes where Ashley Reins, the indifferent administrator, treated guests with disdain. In one segment, the footage showed Ashley dismissively waving a hand as a guest attempted to check in, her tone icy and unyielding. In another, her condescending remarks were clearly audible in hushed whispers as she ordered a visibly distressed guest to leave the premises. As the footage played, murmurs of disbelief spread among the onlookers. The refined hum of the lobby, ordinarily filled with soft conversations and the gentle clink of fine china, was now punctuated by the occasional gasp. Some well-dressed patrons recorded the moment on their smartphones, their eyes wide as the evidence unfolded before them. Not stopping there, Nia then held up a series of printed complaint forms. Testimonies from other guests who, like her, had experienced similar discriminatory treatment by the hotel staff. One form detailed a guest's experience of being brusquely told to find a cheaper hotel, while another recounted how an inquiry was met with cold dismissal and a sneer. The printed documents, complete with handwritten annotations and dates, painted a troubling picture of a systemic pattern of exclusion and bias. Throughout the presentation, Ashley Reins, who had been standing silently near the reception desk, began to show signs of agitation. Her eyes flickered nervously to the screen as the footage rolled on, and she fidgeted with the scarf around her neck. The once smug expression on her face gradually gave way to a look of anxiety. Several guests turned to one another, their whispers growing louder, as the undeniable evidence of discrimination made it impossible to maintain silence. A low murmur rose from the crowd, a mix of indignation, disbelief, and moral outrage. Some guests shifted in their seats, their eyes burning with unspoken support for Nia and disdain for the behavior recorded on the security cameras. Even Thomas Whale, who had maintained an air of controlled authority, now observed the display with a deepening frown, clearly understanding that the evidence was damning. Clearing her throat, Nia addressed the assembly again, her voice resonating with quiet power. This evidence confirms what many of you have suspected. Our guests have been subjected to discrimination that is not only unacceptable but contrary to the very standards of Silver Crown. As the CEO, I take this matter extremely seriously. Our standards and policies must reflect not just luxury in our products, but fairness, integrity, and respect for every individual who walks through our doors. Her words echoed through the opulent space, and for a moment, the soft ambient music that had once graced the lobby seemed to pause in deference. The pace of the recorded footage on the screen was relentless. It did not allow any room for denial. Each snippet, each remark captured by the cameras, served as a mounting testament to the pervasive bias that had tainted the very soul of the hotel's service. As Nia finished displaying the evidence, a heavy silence fell over the room. The tension was almost palpable, an electric charge that foretold drastic consequences. It was evident that the next step in this unfolding drama would be critical. With every printed complaint and each incriminating frame etched on the screen, the authority of Nia's claim grew undeniable. In that moment, the atmosphere in the lobby was transformed from one decorated in refined luxury to a stage set for accountability, where the truth could no longer be hidden. The camera lingered on Ashley Reins' troubled expression, a silent prelude to the inevitable confrontation that was about to reshape the very foundation of the hotel's hierarchy. The heavy silence that had fallen over the lobby was shattered when Nia Jackson, with unwavering determination etched on her face, rose from her seat. The evidence, security footage and customer testimonials, had spoken volumes, and now it was time to act. With a calm but steely tone that cut through the tension, she addressed the assembled staff and guests. Effective immediately, Nia announced, her voice resonant and resolute, "I am terminating the employment of Ashley Reins, whose conduct has repeatedly violated the values of Silver Crown. Discrimination in any form is utterly unacceptable in this establishment." Her words reverberated off the marble walls, and even the soft strains of background music fell away into silence. For a fleeting moment, Ashley's eyes widened in shock and disbelief. Before she could muster any protest, Nia continued, "We will be conducting a full audit of our front desk policies and customer service protocols. This is not just an isolated incident. It is a systemic failure that must be rectified immediately." The urgency in her voice left no room for ambiguity. A stunned murmur swept through the room. Some guests exchanged looks of approval. Others, who had witnessed the earlier indignities, nodded in silent solidarity. In that charged moment, several onlookers could be seen recording the unfolding events on their smartphones, ensuring that every word was captured. The once opulent ambience of the lobby, dazzling chandeliers shimmering over polished marble and diffuse lavender-scented air, now became the stage for corporate accountability. Almost immediately, Thomas Whale, the general manager of Silver Crown, emerged from a side office. His face, previously masked in impassive confidence, now bore traces of regret and concern as he hurried toward the reception area. "Nia," he began in a low, measured tone. His eyes flickered with realizations he could no longer deny. "I'm well aware, Thomas," Nia replied, her voice as gentle as it was firm, "that our guests deserve respect and fair treatment. Today, I'm not just defending our reputation. I'm demanding the integrity of our service. This isn't about one mistake. It's about our entire system failing to live up to the promise of inclusivity that our brand stands for." Thomas paused, his gaze fixed on Nia's determined expression. I understand," he murmured, his voice trembling slightly as he stepped closer. "I admit that we have long ignored the concerns of some guests. It pains me to see how our service has been compromised by outdated policies and personal biases." His hands, once so steady, now clenched into fists of remorse. A hush fell over the room as guests silently registered his admission. One by one, murmurs turned into quiet applause. The sound of clapping began softly, like a single note building into a symphony, until even the skeptical eyes in the crowd softened. Thomas continued, "I promise a thorough review of our practices. I will personally see to it that we institute new policies that guarantee equal treatment for all guests, regardless of background. Today marks a turning point. We must rebuild trust among our clientele and within our team." At this, the tension in the room transformed into a palpable mix of relief and hope. Many guests looked visibly moved, and some even shed tears of quiet joy as they witnessed a powerful moment of accountability. The luxurious surroundings, once the emblem of exclusivity, now resonated with the promise of reform, its shining surfaces reflecting the determination and unity of a community demanding justice. As Thomas's words echoed through the lobby, Nia's calm resolve remained unyielding. She added quietly but firmly, "Our journey towards a fair and just silver crown begins here, with every one of us. Let this incident remind us that no one is above accountability. We will always stand for what is right." The sound of applause swelled in the lobby as the staff and guests rallied behind her message. It was an emotional turning point. In that moment, the echoes of past humiliation were replaced by the strength of collective empowerment. The camera lenses capturing every expression, every tear and every smile, promised that this historic event would reverberate far beyond these walls. As the applause died down, the gravity of the situation lingered. Thomas's acknowledgement of his mistakes and his vow to overhaul policies marked the dawn of a new era at Silver Crown, a legacy of change fueled by truth, accountability, and unwavering courage. Within hours of the dramatic showdown in the lobby, the scandal at Silver Crown exploded into a full-blown media sensation. The incriminating security footage, the customer complaint records, and the dramatic live firing of Ashley Reins were captured on countless smartphones and spread rapidly over social media platforms. Headlines splashed across local and national news networks in Chicago, and upbeat reporters hailed the incident as a watershed moment in corporate accountability. Investors and industry analysts alike began to scrutinize the brand, and soon, the once storied reputation of Silver Crown found itself at the center of an unexpected renaissance. In the weeks that followed, the viral video of the incident was shared millions of times under hashtags such as #SilverCrownReborn, #StandForIntegrity, and #NewEraForLuxury. Public sentiment swung dramatically in favor of change. Consumers, outraged by the blatant discrimination that had been so publicly exposed, began organizing boycotts of the hotel chain. In tandem, the stock prices of Silver Crown, once thought to be impervious to scandal, began a steady ascent as the outpouring of positive publicity around the company's swift response turned a negative incident into a shining symbol of reform. Analysts noted that the decisive actions taken by CEO Nia Jackson not only mended the brand's public image but also renewed investor confidence in her leadership. At press conferences held in downtown Chicago, business leaders and community activists discussed the event's broad implications for the service industry. "What happened at the Silver Crown isn't just a story about one hotel," declared one prominent columnist. "It's a clarion call, demanding that all establishments, no matter how lavish, hold their employees and management to the highest standards of fairness and respect. The news resonated particularly with marginalized communities, who saw in Nia's quiet yet powerful stand a reaffirmation that dignity can prevail over elitism. Inside the newly reformed Silver Crown, changes were swift and dramatic. Thomas Whale and his newly appointed team immediately began overhauling the hotel's policies. Gone were the old, exclusionary practices. In their place emerged a refreshed vision, emphasizing inclusivity, accessibility, and customer care. The lobby was repainted in warm, inviting hues, decorative arrangements were updated with a focus on community and elegance rather than ostentation, and customer service training was revamped to ensure that every guest would be treated with the respect they deserved. New hiring initiatives launched, focusing on diversity and sensitivity training, helped rebuild trust not only among guests but also within the company's ranks. The transformation was so profound that even those who had been staunch supporters of the old regime began to take notice. The viral incident had indelibly marked Silver Crown as a case study in turnaround management. Investors, initially skeptical of the backlash, now found themselves buoyed by the resilient spirit of a company that was willing to change at a moment's notice. Financial news segments praised Nia for her strategic acumen and for turning a potential PR nightmare into an opportunity for robust growth. Social media continued to buzz as countless consumers shared heartfelt messages of support for Nia Jackson and yellow-driven change. Online forums and community meetings held discussions about new business ethics, and the scandal quickly became a catalyst for nationwide debates about discrimination in luxury services. The outpouring of public reaction was not entirely positive, however. Debates raged over the ethical responsibilities of hotels and the need for stricter regulations in the service industry. Yet, through it all, one sentiment prevailed: accountability had been achieved. As the story spread, more documentary-style reports and investigative segments began to follow up on the scandal. Local news outlets devoted entire segments to how the revamped policies at Silver Crown were making a tangible difference. Customer testimonials, once marred by old abuses, began to flood in, each voice echoing a deep desire for change and fairness. In boardrooms across the country, business leaders discussed the incident as a bold example of how companies must respond when faced with injustice. Analysts cited Silver Crown's turnaround as evidence that transparency and swift corrective action can not only restore a brand's image but can also drive growth. The ripple effects of the scandal contributed to an emerging trend where consumers actively sought out businesses that championed inclusivity and ethical practices, setting a new benchmark for corporate responsibility. As the sun set on another chaotic day in Chicago, everyone in the industry was watching closely. Silver Crown had been thrust into the spotlight, its future uncertain yet brimming with possibility, a beacon of change in an industry ripe for reform. In the weeks that followed the dramatic upheaval at Silver Crown, Chicago was abuzz with conversations that spilled from coffee shops to cable news studios. The scandal had evolved into a national talking point, symbolizing a decisive stand against discrimination in even the most exclusive establishments. Public opinion swung like a pendulum, as community forums, newspaper editorials, and televised debates discussed the incident at length. Headlines proclaimed change, and social media platforms thrummed with hashtags like #SilverCrownChange, #InclusiveLuxury, and #StandForJustice. Every post, every tweet, and every blog entry was filled with both admiration for Nia Jackson's unyielding courage and outrage at the systemic bias that had been exposed. Within the once heralded halls of Silver Crown, transformation was tangible. The rebranding plan set into motion by Nia had not only overhauled the hotel's policies but also reshaped its very identity. The lobby, now repainted in warm hues and decorated with artwork celebrating diversity, resonated with an inviting promise of fairness. New training programs for staff were implemented, ensuring that every guest was greeted with respect and dignity. Business analysts noted a surprising surge in bookings. In fact, the company's shares began to rise steadily as investors recognized the potential of a brand committed to ethical reform. Even more striking was the broader societal impact. Community leaders praised Nia Jackson for standing up to outdated, exclusionary practices. At a high-profile industry conference in Chicago, a panelist declared, What happened at Silver Crown is a watershed moment in corporate accountability. It proves that when leaders prioritize humanity over elitism, lasting change begins. The event became a catalyst for similar discussions across the country, inspiring other companies to rethink their customer service and inclusion policies. Meanwhile, Ashley Reins, the administrator whose callous treatment had sparked the entire debacle, found herself grappling with the consequences of her actions. Once a respected figure within Silver Crown, she was now ostracized by her peers. Rumors of her professional misconduct quickly circulated, and she struggled to secure future employment in the hospitality sector. In quiet interviews with local news outlets, Ashley's voice often faltered as she admitted, "I never thought my actions would be scrutinized to this extent. I was just following the norms set before me. But now I see those norms were deeply flawed." Her candid admissions, however, did little to mend the damage. Many former colleagues and industry watchers dismissed her as a relic of an era that had no place in modern, progressive business. Back at Silver Crown, Nia Jackson emerged as both a hero and a symbol of transformative leadership. In an emotional interview for a major business magazine, she explained, "Our success is measured not by how exclusive we are, but by how inclusive our services become. Every change we implemented is a commitment to justice, a promise to never let discrimination go unnoticed." Her words, delivered with a mix of reflective grace and fiery determination, resonated deeply with a generation tired of indifference and bias. In boardrooms, among union meetings, and on the streets of Chicago, the scandal continued to be dissected. Activists organized marches and letter-writing campaigns urging corporations to embrace ethical practices. Social media influencers hailed Silver Crown as a model for internal reform. People from every walk of life joined discussions, sharing personal stories of discrimination and their hopes for a more inclusive future. As the public debate intensified, Nia took time to reflect on her journey. In a quiet moment at her office overlooking Lake Michigan, she scribbled in her journal, "Today, we turned pain into progress and humiliation into hope. We proved that integrity can change the world, even in places once defined by arrogance. Let this be a reminder. No one should ever be silenced by prejudice." Nia's legacy became inseparable from the transformation of Silver Crown. Her leadership and unwavering commitment to equality not only restored the hotel's reputation but also sparked a broader movement. New partnerships, community initiatives, and diversity programs emerged throughout the hospitality industry, all inspired by her example. What do you think is the most important lesson from Nia Jackson's courageous stand against discrimination in the luxury hotel industry? Have you ever witnessed a change in an institution when someone stood up for what is right? Write your opinion in the comments. We'd love to hear your perspective. I hope you enjoyed this story. Leave a comment, sharing your thoughts about it. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new and equally exciting stories. See you in the next video.